Welcome to Narratives Leadership Story Talks, where great leaders go beyond the bottom line to create lasting impact. Join hosts Jerome and Julienne Ryan as they uncover the stories behind real-world challenges, offering practical insights to help you lead with empathy, authenticity, and purpose. Each episode dives into how leaders use storytelling to build trust, foster connection, and inspire action. Whether you're navigating workplace dynamics, driving change, or building high-performing teams.
If you're not working in a role or a profession that you're passionate about, that you get out of bed in the morning and now not every day, it's not a utopia. There are the days, but if overall you're not deeply in love and curious about and passionate about what you're doing, find what creates that in you, or enables you to live in that. And I would say, be curious, listen more. And I know you guys are about storytelling, but listen to those stories, listen more, lean in, study your profession, study your craft, become as good as you can be at it, and lean into the challenges that are coming at us every day. They're going to come anyway. I can choose to say, look what's happening to me, or I can choose to say, look what I get to do. Look how I'm attacking this, and attack it arguably in a more effective way with more effective outcomes versus being the victim in the situation of what happened to me. So just change your paradigm.
Welcome back to our Leadership Story Talks debrief episode. You just heard a quote from Greg Smith from Franklin Covey. He's the executive coaching lead there, and yeah, that quote caused us to think about how do you prolong as much as possible what's been taught in coaching and what you've been able to do as a manager or leader in terms of that bubble that you were in when you're working on that with that coach one-on-one sometimes can drop off after you're now in the real world and you're talking to your boss, et cetera, and they've got their own realities and your team as well. So that's the one we chose. I know you've got some thoughts about that.
Oh, I
Julienne.
do already.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, anyone who's looking at my face, I can see the typewriters going across my forehead. You said prolong, which is such an interesting choice because it's like medical. Like you've taken a certain almost drug or medicine or a medicinal thing and you're trying to extend it. But I think that is a good prompt because I argued in my head, what about finding things that sustain it and support it, which is what we discussed. You have to build a structure that people are not just saying nice to haves, they're going to be accountable and they are part of the solution. So I think that was great. Great word, a prompt to get us going here.
Well, and I take your point. I take your point about that because there is I think there's an implication in the word prolonging that, it's going to end at some point. You're just prolonging as opposed to sustaining something. So yeah, and that's what we're after. We want sustainability, obviously. Knowing, I think that's the important thing. I mean, I remember coaching someone, for a while, almost a year, and they would go off and it was really based on how can storytelling help me be a better leader. So this guy really wanted to work on his storytelling skills. And obviously what we found out is that, or what he found out was that he really needed to work on his listening skills first, and be comfortable with listening to stories from his team members. And what happened there is that it sort of relieved the pressure of that he was feeling. This is kind of what we uncovered, that he was feeling about having to be the one to speak, having to be the one to say, this is the direction, this is the vision, now please follow me. And he was finding it very frustrating when he would do that very eloquently and clearly in his mind, but he would look at his teammates and leadership team and they would sort of have blank stares, or they didn't seem that enthusiastic. And when he started to flip things around and really focused on, let me hear what you have to say, and actually took the time to listen, then the stories that he needed to tell came up from that. So our coaching sessions became part of that, became more about not necessarily the story that I need to anticipate, but more, here's what I heard from people. What story should I tell that's relevant to what I'm hearing? And I say that because in terms of the sustainability, once you leave that bubble of coaching, okay, I get that in coaching, et cetera. But the thing is that during the coaching, he was getting the practice. And I think that's what really matters, is that if you're entering into a coaching relationship, we always want to make sure that during our coaching relationship, you're having many opportunities to practice and come back to the coach and say, all right, here's what happened. Here's what I heard. How do I adjust? How do I adapt? It doesn't happen in a vacuum. And to me, that's how sustainability happens. And after a while, when the person really gets the method and has enough practice, that means their confidence has been built. And the more their confidence is built, the more they're able to go out on their own and do this with their teams without necessarily having to have a coach all the time with them.
Thank you. Because the other words that popped into my head is when we're giving a story, sharing a story, or listening on a group, it's about being seen, heard, and appreciated.
Hmm.
That we heard the words, it resonated. And then a lot of times, give and take, it's remembering where that person was, what they struggled with, what they're tackling. So it's interwoven communication. It's not just a one and done that you gave a story and you gave this motivating speech and who cares? Because what does that have to do with me? It's like, so it's the interwoven. You're giving people permission to be much more forthcoming with their experiences are, because we learn from the pain points. We just are so trained to eradicate any pain points and put a gloss on things. So listening is the key to the storytelling. That we just use the stories and use all these devices to disrupt people's listening and really teach them about small moments and like an athletic coach or a music coach, build up to a bigger repertoire of listening skills and communication skills.
Yeah, because ultimately, I mean, you brought up the analogy of the athletic coach. I mean, ultimately, it's the athlete that's performing, and when the athlete is on that field, the coach is not there with them, So it's really, that's when you start to see the sustainability happen, when they're doing things without the support of the coach. And I want to come back to one thing that Greg said, which is essentially he was describing a process by which at the outset there's a sponsoring team and there are people who are very aware and kind of in the corner of the person who's going to be coached. And so during that time, they're following that process too, and they're able to see, okay, here's where that person is now, and they can see that progress. And then at the very end, it's like they can continue to encourage them and empower them to keep going, essentially, so that there isn't that drop off. But I think to me, it's really about just internalizing things, and things get into your bones, and then it's muscle memory. The what I described as the process of that particular leader that I worked with, that's just his process now. He listens first, when before he was speaking first. Changed that paradigm, and now it's become part of who he is, in all walks of life. So I think that's the key here.
And coaching is not a check mark. You finish, you move on, hit the goals. But for the organization that's securing that, it should not just be a check mark to cover their bases. It should be an investment of time that means something, and that you need to also invest your own energies on the back end. You can't put it on the onus. It's like having kid go to school, or this. The learning happens in more than one segment of somebody's life. So investment of time and really holding yourselves accountable too.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to share with our
No, I'm
listeners
trying to
today?
manage my head bobbing because I was listening and agreeing with you. I was like too much head bobbing, but it's a lot. It's a whole topic unto itself, but I think the accountability and having a structure and realizing where it's built and having those discussions way before you start the process is really important. And it looks like in the way they've been doing it, they're contracting, and I think that's a very important part of this process. bigger than just one human. They're focused on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listeners, if you're interested in investing in coaching and learning how to tell your story, we at Narrative are always happy to listen to you and connect you to the right people. As you know, we've got 160 plus episodes now in our podcasting vault. There's a lot of people in there, so don't hesitate to come to us and ask us to connect you with people. Connect with us, learn how to tell your story. We can do this one-on-one. We can do this in group training programs. We even have an on-demand product that you can look at on our website, narrative.com, narrative.com. I encourage everybody to go there. And thanks again for listening to us. Thank you, Julienne, for being my wonderful co-host. It's always a pleasure. All right, everybody. Bye-bye, and see you next time.
For more information on the narrative listening and storytelling method and how it can help your business, go to narrative.com.